confess, Father, I confess, 'cause I've been living wrong.
Yo, what's up, man? It's your boy T SKO to the day, Mr. Flow So Good, Matiba Totle, Mr. Skipper, my what. Y'all already know we're fit to back with you guys with another YouTube video. For those of y'all that are new to the channel, like I always say, man, please do find a alert button somewhere beneath this video. Make sure to click it, not forgetting to click the bell next to it, because that's what really makes sure that YouTube does notify you when we upload some videos. Now, if you guys have been paying attention to, international hip-hop news recently, you guys will already know that majority of people internationally of our skin color, and by majority I'm speaking mostly about Americans and celebrities in general, have been out and about basically boycotting Gucci for their new line that basically resembles what has come to be known as blackface, which is largely viewed as racist by the African American community, simply because blackface back in the days of slavery, white people used to paint their faces black and go to theaters and act out the role of black people. And they used to act out those roles basically in a derogatory fashion and represent black people in a derogatory fashion as property and so on and so forth. And it did a lot to actually continue to propagate and further enforce the fact that, black people are less than white people historically. Now, y'all will already know every time something happens in America, I feel like a lot of African media houses decide and feel like those things should somehow apply to Africans. And they basically came out, a lot of media houses reporting this and basically saying that Africans should not take part in buying Gucci or purchasing Gucci, basically saying that, they should also join the boycott. And that has put a lot of pressure on, African celebrities, with a lot of fans basically coming out and telling them to also join in and, burn their Gucci clothing the same way that 50 Cent has been doing, and a number of international celebrities like T.I. have also been doing. Now, one person who's received quite a bit of flack for this, with a lot of people asking him whether he has gotten rid of his, Gucci items and so on and so forth, is AKA. And y'all will already know that AKA will come out and respond if he feels like something politically doesn't align with him. This is what he actually came out and said. He said, "Yeah, now you lacquer quit. Leave me and my Gucci, please, or go boycott whatever channel decides to play Oh Sharks, It's Schuster, because there's tons of blackface in there. You South Africans are worried about the wrong things. Boycotting Gucci just to sound woke." Now, from that tweet, you guys can actually tell that AKA is basically saying, look, man, I am not taking part in no boycotting of anything. And the reason he's saying that is saying that, look, a lot of people are actually doing this to sound woke, and he feels like, blackface basically doesn't apply to us. Now, to be honest, the reason I decided to cover this is when I saw that tweet, I actually had mixed feelings about it. I partly disagreed with it, and I also agreed with it in a lot of ways. And now, where I disagree with him is this, right? As black people around the world, I think we cannot sit back and watch as racism happens in any part of the world just because we come from a different nation. And the simple reason for that is racism has got nothing to do with a nation or, where a particular person comes from. When somebody who is another skin color, historically, it's been a lot of times white people. So I'll give this example and say that if a white person is racist, they're not just racist towards black Nigerian or black Mozambican or black South African. They're racist towards any black person that comes around their area. So even if, he were to, fly today and go to some part of the US where somebody is racist, they would probably treat him in a racist fashion, even though they don't know where he comes from, simply because of the color of his skin. So I do believe that as black people, if we can contribute to a fight against racism in any part of the world in some shape or form, we should. Because, like I'm saying, it's not about nation, but it's more about skin color. Now, he does raise a good point so as to how much do we support those types of things where people are saying something is racist, because like he's saying in the situation when he says, when he sees things like blackface, he definitely does not see racism. He basically sees it as, funny because, to him it reminds him of Oh Sharks, It's Schuster and things like that. And personally, I'm not even going to lie, I definitely do not, see a white person painting their face black as racist, because historically it really does not apply to me as somebody who grew up, in Africa. And so given the fact that people from different parts of the world, even though they're the same skin color, view certain things from different lenses, it then does raise the question of how much do you support things like that when somebody comes out and says somebody in Europe who decided to paint their face brown, is racist or not? And that brings me to my next point, which is, I think, the most important thing for me when I look at this whole thing, where I say, I think after I was reading about this whole thing, because I wasn't even aware of it, but after reading about this whole thing, I personally started to realize that, to me, part of it is really, really silly because, people do not want to look at context, right? A lot of the articles I was reading were coming out and talking about the fact that just because a white person painted their face black or did something that resembles blackface in a sense, they are automatically racist, and not necessarily, counting things like context. And this is where I come in and I say context is important because, like he's saying, if you look at how Leon Schuster was doing it in terms of, Oh Sharks, that series that he had, majority of that stuff was actually funny, and to some extent it did expose a lot of racism, especially when he went in doubt with a white person as a white guy, and then went again in doubt with the same white person as a black guy, and he saw, those different reactions. It actually did a lot more to expose racism than as an actually racist thing. And that's why I'm saying that, to me, it sounds very silly because, and it's not something that I agree with AK. It's not something that black people around the world should be supporting because it's missing context. And the moment you start getting rid of things like context, this is where we start getting into stupid things where we're all just trying to boycott something just because, we think ink is actually racist. It's like, when people criticize, Israel, you can't just wake up and say, everything that they say is anti-Semitic, or when they criticize a Jew, everything they say is anti-Semitic. You actually have to understand context. Even with the use of the N-word, or the context is important. The moment we start having context, that's when we can be able to support things, and support them together around the world if it is, and judge whether it's really racist or not. Because I looked at that whole outfit. If you look at what Gucci's statement was, for example, they basically said, look, we didn't even know that this stuff is racist. And to some extent, I can understand what they're saying, because I'm thinking to myself, if you're in Europe, because Gucci is a European brand, not an American brand, you don't care about American history. You're thinking about whatever's happening on your side of the world. And if that is not racist on your side of the world, why should somebody who's in another part of the world come and tell you that this is racist? But I don't know about Fetu. Y'all leave me your comments in the comment section, letting me know what you think. Do you guys think that Africans should join the fight that Americans are currently fighting, and boycott Gucci? By the way, some of us have been boycotting it because technically we can afford it. But for those that can afford it, do you guys think that they should join this fight and boycott Gucci because Gucci is somewhat racist? Or do you guys think, like AKA, and basically how I think, that they should be looking at context, okay? They should be looking at context, and you can't run around naming everything racist. By the way, they're also trying to boycott Burberry because they had a rope around their neck. And like I'm saying, how does a rope then become racist? But anyway, that's just my opinion. Y'all leave me your comments and definitely subscribe. Awesome.